And then those tiny hairs that curve out of the ear, I have to, when I draw them, I have to curve them. Actually, to draw in charcoal, maybe to draw anything, it's almost like touching the actual thing. Does that make any sense at all, people? All right, here's my hairs coming out of the ear. I wanna get in that hole right there. I wanna carve into that hole. Watch what difference it makes when I create that hole. Watch how it changes the drawing. And I'm bringing the dark up out of the hole in the direction of those hairs. Now, maybe I wouldn't commit to using the charcoal quite so vigorously. Well, obviously, I wouldn't do that so early on in a drawing, but for the demo purposes, I want you to see how that darkness changes that whole area. And this little triangle here, that's really important to me. My eye seeks that out as a brilliant place to carve my charcoal into, but I always have to follow the hair direction there. And I'll just give that a bit of a smudge and then follow the hair. All right, what's next? There are some dark places here that outline this shock of white hair. I'm going to loosely put charcoal in the dark places there, and charcoal where the behind shock goes behind these brilliant light parts of the mane. The line of Judah, I had to be very careful. I was maybe even more careful than I needed to be, so it took me a very, very long time. Because once you have a really big piece of artwork, if you mess up too badly, you have to start over, and that's not pleasant. So I was pretty careful. All right, I'm going in these roots right here. Look at all those dark roots. I want to accentuate those. You remember this brilliant hole in the mane right there. Okay. Smudge those. We're going to make these hairs right here be brilliant in the sun in a second here. Now, there are many, many layers, at least in the way that I've been doing things. There are so many layers, they can't even be, wouldn't even know how to count them all. So you just do these kinds of things over and over and over. Now, even though I'm smudging over some of these hairs, look how you can still see some of the hairs visible, just barely visible. That's going to help us give depth, because that's under there. Now, my other hairs are going to go close to them, but not exactly parallel to them. And every time I do that, it gives depth. If I do that 50 times, I have 50 layers of depth with the hair. It looks very deep, it looks realistic. And then I want to just barely come into these ghost, what I call them, ghost hairs back here. They're not completely in the sun, but they are visible. They're somewhere in there and they're necessary. Always follow the hair, always. Okay? I'm going to smudge the inside of those hairs. They are emerging from the dark. So I don't need to necessarily smudge out here too much, although it might be smart. Because there's a light ring around that ear, but then there's a darker stripe right here. It might help give us a little bit more realism if we do that. But we want to carve out this dark. So hopefully you can start to see this as an ear. Now the neat thing is, we have all these errant hairs right here. I'm actually drawing the space between the hairs here. It's very quick. It's not difficult at all. I'm going to take the charcoal right here and I'm going to show you how I draw in between the hairs. This is a neat way to, it's hard to hold a pencil like this. You see that? I just leave a hair here and there, draw in between them. Not crazy hard, not a lot of pressure. You don't want to do that because I'm going to smudge that. And our roots are darker than the top of that Christmas bulb of hair. So I'm going between the hairs in the near the root. Near the roots. Alright? So when we smudge, just lightly smudge. So this is the third layer for this particular shock of hair. And you can see I'm making quite a few of the hairs disappear, but we're leaving several. And every time I do that, it makes for depth. Okay? We're just going to make errant hairs squiggling away because that's what a lion's mane is, a bunch of squiggles. Okay. Sometimes the mane has really, really long hair, but in other places it's really, really short and squiggly. So you have to know which place in the main you're at. Now, we'll just do like a minute more. Okay, I'm smudging more at the roots. I'm not smudging out here. This is out in the light, out in the sunlight, okay? I don't want to smudge out there. I want to darken up these roots. And I'm going in between some hairs. Not in between every hair. Okay, and then just lightly shadow. I hope this looks like close enough to the ear to where you can tell where we're headed with the drawing. It takes a long time. Okay, now see, I'm doing squiggly errant hairs. You can do that once you have the bulk of the shock of hair down. Once that's down, and then we can play with that dark hole. Okay, so check this out. Alright, this is just a dark hole, so I'm just going to make this crazy black. I wouldn't do this really early in a big drawing, but for our purposes here, I'm doing it. Okay, I'm going to smudge that in, and I'll show you how brilliant you can use contrast of dark and light over that dark place, okay? All right. Now anything I put over that hole is going to look like it's closer to us. It's in the sun. It's hard to bend this way, but it's in the sun, and anything in front of that is going to be beautiful and brilliant. And I'm really using an eraser with a really sharp edge, and I'm pressing into it. We'll do a few more of these ear hairs before we quit for the day. And then the next thing that we would do would be this right here. I would darken that up. Just in places enough until I smudge to tell us, hey, that hair is behind this bright, brilliant, in the sun shock of hair. See how slick that works? And all I have to do is smudge that. Just lightly, not a lot of pressure. Okay? Then go back into it with an eraser. Some of my hairs are going in different directions. I mean, slightly different directions. Okay, so hopefully that makes just a little bit of sense. It's quick, it's really rudimentary. Hopefully you can tell I was working in this area right here. Okay? Let me know what you guys think.